What up, what up, what up, y'all? I know Henny God is ready to judge me on my wrinkled shirt, man. It's kickback day, man. I'm just kicking back, waiting to hear from OG Cutes.
What's up, Kev?
What up, homie?
It's all good. How you been, brother?
I've been all right, man. That beard growing and getting gray. What's going on with you?
Oh man, sometimes it's good to change up a little bit.
I like that shirt.
Yeah, it's a Tommy shirt.
So, we here today because some dude named Jim or some Tom or something like that
Yeah, his
did a
name is
video
Mike.
9 months ago on Tookie. What's his name?
I think his name is Mike.
Okay, that go along with a Tom and all
Yeah,
that. Mike did a
yeah.
video about Tookie, and you wasn't feeling it. Let's talk about it.
Well, basically, you could tell that he's part of the opposition. You know, he was on the prosecution's team. You could feel it in his narrative, and you could tell that he didn't even do his homework. He just got a bunch of material from different places, and he's confusing people deliberately because he's an educated person, but he didn't want to take the time and do it right. He just wanted to mix it up and cause more confusion, and that's what his mission was, his whole mission. So he just came on just to get a few numbers so he could get a little money at the expense of Stanley and the people who love him, and he was basically, for the prosecution. So you could just see that, and
Well, well, well. My thing, cutes. I didn't get to see the whole video. I just seen the opening, and I couldn't tell if he was reading from a book and the court transcripts or both or whatever he was doing. But I don't know the guy's character. I don't know if he's a hater. I don't know if he hate black people. I don't know if he hate the culture. I don't know if he hate the Crips or he hate Tookie. I don't know. But seemed like to me that's the stereotypical European American point of view. I'm not gonna say he's prosecution or attorney or none of that, but he's pro prosecutor, obviously.
right,
And
exactly.
that's why I feel like we need to give our own history because guys like me and you, we not gonna just down another brother just to do it.
Yeah. And
But
what's sad is that in his account and what he's delivering, he's confusing people on events. He's like saying things that doesn't make any sense at all, like how the Bloods formed and how there were only three gangs. Everything he's saying is just dumb. It's like he's so ignorant in his approach to deal with this topic that he should have just, say, look, man, I need to study this a little more if I'm going to go on and elaborate on this, because this is complex and difficult. I just can't read this and go on and make sense because there are educated people who live that life who are out there and they're going to see that I'm confusing, you know, the people of the truth of the situation of, how gangs evolve, and how Stanley became Stanley, how he evolved into Tookie, and how our sets formed. He didn't understand any of that. He didn't understand about the Bloods, where it came from, the word. He didn't know nothing about Baba Louie. He didn't know anything about the Pyrus. He all he did was confuse people. That's all he did. And then toward the end, he started getting happy. He started getting happy when he was reading about, clemency being denied to Stanley, and you could just feel his energy, coming alive in that. It was like, well, they killed that, guy. That's, it was like happy, happy. Let's put another nail in his coffin kind of thing. Like people who don't like Jesus, when they get to the part of the execution, they get all happy. If he was God, why didn't he pull himself off the tree? And all of that kind of stuff. It's
well,
just
that's
silly.
again that's typical of a lot of pale skinned people's perception of of a black guy, particularly a gang member or accused murderer or convicted murderer, that faces a death penalty.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
what I don't understand, there's so many white people out there getting in trouble. He could have looked at Charles Manson. He could look at Donald Trump, and then he could have put those two together and said, well, Charles Manson and Donald Trump, they really, alike. Charles Manson, he was credited for, encouraging a lot of people to do wrong. And Donald Trump had the energy to encourage a lot of people to do wrong. But yet these two people, they really didn't do the wrong. They wasn't there when the wrong was incurred. They were away from it, but yet they were able to instigate people to do wrong. So he could have went in on that. No one has done that yet. No one has shown, the likeliness of those two characters, Donald Trump and Charles Manson. They have the same type of charisma. They both dings, which means crazy, and they got a following. And one's living and one's dead, but still they have the ability to influence people to do wrong. But no, he wants to go in and interview Stanley, who's dead, who needs to rest in peace. And here you are again uncovering the man, putting more misinformation out there and confusion instead of coming on, interview some of your people, dissect Charles Manson and Donald Trump. That would be wonderful to do. How do you get a bunch of people who some of them had law enforcement degrees and background, some of them were teachers, some of them were on high level pensions from their profession? How did Donald Trump influence those people to break into the Capitol? How did an ignorant person like Charles Manson influenced Ted Watson and all of his people to go and do the Bianca thing and kill those people? How was he able to do that? How was these two people able to do such fiendish things? And one gets locked up for the rest of his life, who didn't have, the murder weapon in his hands. And here, Donald Trump, on the other hand, he's living in a mansion right now, but you got dead police officers who died in the Capitol, and the aftermath of the psychological effect on the minds of the police who felt like they didn't do their duty, end up killing themselves. So he's responsible for all of that murder. And here you are, want to weigh in on Stanley Tookie Williams. Poor people. We down here at the bottom. We in South Central Los Angeles. And you want to talk about he hung out in vacant houses and vacant lots, and older people would fight dogs illegally and then start fighting the kids. We grew up in this neighborhood. What are you telling us this for? What is the purpose of you telling the story? It doesn't make any goddamn sense. It
hey, I
doesn't.
caught that. I caught that, and I had never heard nothing like that. And back then, when I was coming up, people lived in these houses. There weren't abandoned houses on the west side where you guys lived at when I was
Exactly.
young. So it baffled me when he said that. Like you said, there was no reason for saying it. But if I can, before you finish, I want to say I knew it. The thought came to my mind as soon as the video started, and I'm gonna tell you what that thought was. When you ask why is he doing something on Tookie, somebody at the bottom, it's very simple, Q's. Number one, because he's black. Number two, because this gang stuff is really in. It's really in now. It's really catching on, and everybody who didn't want to talk about it before, everybody that turned their head to it previously, they're all into it now. And that's why he wasn't making sense because, as you said, he didn't do no studying. He don't know shit about Tookie, the lifestyle, the area. And let me say this, when he mentioned Whittier, he didn't know how to pronounce Whittier, so you know the damn fool wasn't from around our neck of the woods.
He can't even read. He's trying to read and he's not saying the words right. Something's wrong with him. He's a face for someone else. He's a puppet. Someone else put him up to doing what he's doing. and it's not making any damn sense. So what I'm telling you, Mike, you need to come on and talk about Donald Trump. You need to talk about Charles Manson. You need to talk about this white black guy named Larry Elder. You need to come on and talk about how the Republicans tried to take a power grab of California and our great Governor Newsom. I guarantee you, if Newsom had been in power during the time of this when Tookie was up for clemency, I guarantee you Gavin Newsom would have granted him clemency for his efforts in the gang lifestyle to try to make a difference in young people's lives. I guarantee Newsom would have saw his sincerity. The reason Arnold couldn't see his sincerity is because he's not a sincere person. He's sleeping around with his maid. Here, every time he kisses his wife is actually kissing the coochie of whatever he was eating from his maid. How disrespectful is that? How would you like to come home to your wife, Mike, and every time you kiss her, she's been on me all day because I'm the pool cleaner? How would you like that? How would that affect your psyche, Mike? So here's Arnold. He's in a position of leadership and authority, but he can't control his libido, and he's plugging his maid. How scandalous is that? And he was married to a member of the first family's relative. So he's really low down and dirty and stinky. So why don't you talk about that? Then you want to throw in, your little slights as you talking about, something so tragic, and you want to laugh and you want to like giggle. And then I can hear your buddy in the background coughing because it's not serious to you guys. It's just another brother in the dirt. It doesn't mean anything to you. You just want to talk about black people in a negative way. You don't think we redeemable. You don't think that we deserve a second chance. And all you do is demonize Mexicans now. Look how you people did the poor people, the Haitians at the border. You whooped them, stampeded them with horses. And why don't you talk about that? Why don't you come on with some energy about that injustice? We had no right to treat those migrants like that. That was wrong. Something's wrong, it's wrong. You can't all of a sudden say, let's focus on these blacks down here in South Central and let's take our mind off our own troubles. Let's look at how uncouth and how worthy they are of unforgiveness. And then when you ain't messing with us, you messing with MS-13. Oh, MS-13. They're animals. They're one step from being Neanderthals. They never deserve a second chance. They're not human at all. What kind of shit is that? These are human beings. These are young men who made a choice to join a gang. All of them ain't the same. How you gonna paint them all with the same brush? Because a few bad apples do something real heinous. How are they all that terrible? How are you gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater? I'm gonna tell you how you can do it. Through your racism. Your racism will demonize a whole race of people. You did it to the Indians. They're savages. So now they're savages. It's all right to scalp them. It's all right for your pioneer to march in town with a bunch of scalps on his belt, and everybody makes a movie about that, and that's supposed to bring good happiness because you playing some honky tonk music in the background, and now you created another movie of misery that makes you smile, but makes the ancestors of the Native Americans cry, make them weep. Now you want to talk about Stanley Tookie Williams, and you're trying to make us weep. That's all you guys do is dig up the bones of our skeletons, and you don't have no empathy for the living. You know why? Because you're the psychopaths. You're the unforgiving. You're unforgiving of us. You don't have God in your heart. You're just capitalist pigs. That's all you are. So no one came on TV and said, hey, man, that wasn't cool the way we did the migrants. How come Larry Elder hasn't came on? When he thought he had a chance at being the governor, you heard his Uncle Tom ass on the news, the radio, everything, talking about how he's going to turn things around. Well, let me tell you something. Gavin Newsom has already turned things around. If it wasn't for him locking down our county and making us put these masks on and keeping us away from each other at the level that he did, we would be bad off as Texas right now. We would be bad off as Arizona right now. See, because you Republican governors down in these states, you don't believe in shit. You just don't care that this shit is killing poor people. The first thing you want to say is that, what was the underlying cause of their death? Did they have weight problems? Were they black? Were they obese? I don't care what they were, they're human beings. And the fact is, they didn't get vaccinated. Then you want to say, well, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to encourage people to get vaccinated. Well, don't encourage people to get vaccinated, but don't discourage them either. If you're discouraging them, then what are you doing? You don't care. It ain't your family member that died in the hospital, your brother, your cousin. You don't care. And the reason I'm kind of jumping in and out is because you motherfuckers then did a lot of bullshit within the last few months. Delete that part, Kev. But you guys have did a lot of things within the last few months, that's very upsetting. And you really hate black people. You don't really talk about Black Lives Matter anymore. I was looking at a video the other day. I just looked at it. And my cousin Anthony Madison had sent it to me. And what happened is the police pulled him over and he got out the car. And when he got out the car to stand up, somebody ran in and hit him with a taser. And because he has health problems, he just fainted. And no one tried to stop his fall. They just let him fall, blam, onto the ground. And then this other police put his knee in the back of his neck. And all of this is on video. And how come you didn't interview that, Mike? How come you didn't go find that video and put it on? If you want to talk about injustice, if you want to use your form for a purpose, then do something like that. If you want to redeem yourself with black people, because you can't do it by talking about Stanley Tookie Williams. You can't take this objective approach. But when you doing your little narrative, you showing, little signs of happiness when you're going through your little, skit. Because that's all it was a skit, And a lot of people wanted Stanley to die. Okay, he's dead. So is their life any better off? Is their loved ones brought back from the dead? Nope. They're still dead as they are dead. Did they lose any weight because of him dying? Nope. Did they get any more money in their bank account because of his execution? Nope. So what did it change? It didn't change shit. The only thing was changed is that another human being was murdered at the government of the California. It is just as primitive and archaic as it was when the Jews killed Jesus in this day and time. So now you want to look back at the Taliban. You say, okay, the Taliban is taking power of Afghanistan. They say that they're going to start amputations again and execution. So you tell us that about them. So we Americans could demonize them and hate them now. Well, we're no better than them. We just executed a man with a legal injection. We just shot poison in a body that was living. And we just as barbaric as them when it comes to execution. So how's you gonna throw the rock and hide your hand? Can't have it both ways.
Some cereal. It's supposed to be good for you. Did you try it? I'm not gonna try it. You try it. I'm not gonna try it. Let's get Mikey. Yeah. He won't eat it. He hates everything.
That's right. Mikey will eat any goddamn thing. That's right.
Hey, Cuse, what's your cash app, bro?
Gilbert Bell, $Cutes, 777 cashapp.com. Yeah, man.
That was funny, man. Somebody asked who was Mike. I said Mike could eat it. Mike hates everything.
Yeah, and Mike and Mike is who we talking about. We talking
So,
about
so the good thing about Mike is he only got 113 subscribers, so he's no threat. But he did have like 12,000 views, so that's real good for somebody with 113 followers.
he
I,
had 12,000 views because he put the face of Stanley up there. Everybody looks at Stanley. Stanley had charisma. When Stanley would walk into the park, a party, the forum, wherever we would go, all the girls would crowd around us and want to meet Stanley because Stanley was a nice guy. Stanley was a sweet, loving guy. He wasn't a mean dude. He wasn't barbaric. Neither was Raymond Washington. They were nice people. So you hear these people come on the air demonizing them. They didn't know him. I knew him. I ate at the table with him. I was in the cars with him, lifted weights with him, was with him on the good times and the bad times. So you
Q's,
people,
Did you ever hang out at the Red House?
yeah, I hung out. Me and Mouse would go to all of them. Me, Mouse, and the former Big Al. We used to go to all, and we had Took's back. We used to come out there and be with Took and come get him, and we would. It was like a weekend, you know. Every weekend we would all be together.
Tell me what type of guy Bob Simmons was and when you first met him.
Bob Simmons was a good, serious dude, big dude. Uh, he was about the business. He loved the kids. He uh he didn't want us to spend time incarcerated. He wanted us to get our act together in placement, you know, and he gave us a second chance to be in a placement, you know, and he saw the leadership qualities of Stanley and other people in the community who had leadership qualities, and he gave them chances at employment. He was a good dude. And he was liked by the Crips and by the Bloods. Because if you know, we were inside of those rooms. It was Crips and Bloods. It was a gathering, a drawing of the community of youngsters who would end up in juvenile hall from our lifestyle. You know,
Hey,
and
hey
then you want
Q,
to talk, yeah.
Henny guy say he just sent you $10. Did you get it?
Tell Henny God I got it. And Henny God, I want to thank you, brother, for looking out for me, man, because you've been supporting this platform a long time. And you know, man, I get feedback from the brothers in the institution, in the Mexican mafia, the ABs. They all appreciate my work, the BGFs, all of them brothers who are locked up, and some of them are up for parole. And I just want you guys to be strong in there, and I want you guys to make parole, man. And I'm out here pleading with Gavin Newsom to give you guys dates, man. You guys just try to get along in there the best way you can, but no matter what, survive, man. That's all I ask you guys, and don't drop out. If you
Mike
want to get
Mark
out of your
say,
gang, if you want to get out of your gang, wait till you get out of prison and get out of your gang. And then, you know, just slowly get out of your gang, man. You don't got to
Mike
get out of far
Q,
away. Yeah.
it's so hard to get you to stop talking. Hey, Mike
Mhm.
Mark said he also sent you $10.
Thanks
Now
a lot, Big Mike. Mike
now
Mark.
now Joe Mosley wants to know what year the Slater House was opened in Palmer Block Hood, one of the Bob Simmons' other home.
Well, you got to look at this. All of Tookie's houses down there, Bob Simmons was bouncing Tookie around down there for a little while. But let's look at the years of 77. Well, 76 is when Tookie got shot, I believe, in 76. That's when Raymond came home. So let's look at 75 in 70, between 75 and 74 it had to be, because Tick was like on his way out in 76, so it had to be right around in there. And of
On his
course,
way out of where? Out the Red House?
yeah, violence was picking up.
Oh
So
yeah, he left in 77. But you're right, he got
yeah,
shot in 76.
yeah, so you know things were sort of heating up in the street with us, you know, the gangs and things like that, you know. And Bulldog tried to pull us all together through his, you know, man, the courageous courage that this guy had, Bulldog. Man, I can't speak on him enough. He tried to bring us all together up under this umbrella called the Long Table and put us down there and let us just talk it out, man. And if we couldn't talk it out, let's go on the side of the building and duke it out. You know, and Bulldog, you in heaven, buddy. I already know that. You were a down ass dude, man.
So let me
Yeah.
back up real quick. Um, had you ever been to Factor Brookins?
Yeah, so uh Mouse and Took were at Factor Brookins. And so Factor Brookins, I believe, was in Pomona.
It was near Banning, California.
Okay, Bannon, yeah. Yeah, it was Bannon. Yeah, they were there. And so in the weekend, Took would get these passes and we would come and get them. Was that like 72 or 71? Yeah, we would
Yeah,
come and
72.
yeah, we would come and take Took from there on his weekend passes. He would either spend the night over my house or he would spend the night over Melvin Hardy's house. Or he would bounce back and forward. So and we would on those furloughs, we would go to the Sportsman Park record hops. They would have dances, and we would all be at the record hops, and Took and them would be in there flexing. Big Mouse Took and all the big buff dudes. It was right before Big Michael Christian got locked up to YA. I believe Mike went to YA in '72. So they would all be up there posing, and we'd be having fun with big ass. We had a dude out of Compton named James Compton, and then we had a Compton named Compton, and then so both of those guys they would be up there, and it would just be nice and exciting, man, for us to get out. We also had Black Johnny from Fort Trey Avalon. He would be with us back then too. So, it was a mixture, a mixture of good brothers, out going to these record hops. They were called Boss Tom Cross record hops. When Munson and them had their record hops, they were called the other name that Munson had named of the other DJ. But the funny thing, Munson didn't want to talk about it. But one time Munson and them, they came and turned out our record hop, and they kind of put a hurting on us one night. They were a little older, and they kind of
Oh
put a
yeah,
hurting on us at
yeah.
the
He didn't
record
want
hop.
to talk about that in public.
Yeah, and you can't blame Big Munson. Munson's the big homie, so they didn't want to talk about certain things. Munson, I got nothing but love for Munson. Like I said, me and Munson was tight. Still is tight. And in the street, we were friends, and it was just like that. You got to be tight with someone, or they put you in the car with them. And every time I was in the car with Munson, you could believe I was strapped like a motherfucking warlord. And
Hey,
so that's how
Juice,
we would be rolling.
when you, Dead Eye Clint, Babyface, and Bulldog was going to the long table, was Tookie ever there?
Yeah, I brought Chick there. He was convalescing from being shot. So he didn't like to get out and walk. So me and Big Jack, we would pull up. Raymond would come out and talk to Chick at the window of the car. I'd be kicked back in the back seat, and we would be jamming some Superman Lover, jamming Johnny Guitar Watson. That was Tookie's favorite music. So he would play that. Like if you with him, you go hear that all fucking day.
Hey,
So
Lita says she sent you a few too to your cash
uh,
app.
hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. I'm out here drug free, doing the work, talking to the gangs. Uh, the gangs respect me. I respect them. And if I see anything, that I can encourage, that's what I do. I fill a gap. And I don't care if it's a white gang, a black gang, or a Mexican gang. If a person acts like they want to communicate with me, then I communicate with them. I don't press up on nobody. I can tell if someone wants to be my friend. Just like, I just lost a deer, one of my comrades. And when I was in that parking lot down there on South Central on 79th, and, standing out there and all these gangs was out there, people that I remembered and people who I didn't, everything was real respectful. And we were there to say goodbye to Monster Cody, and everything was cool, man. And I saw a little bit of everybody there. Everybody was ready, just to say for this few moments, let's just chill and send this good one off. And because he was a good brother, man. And what really excited me is that I was standing out on Western and I had my little dog with me. And we were standing there at the bus stop on Western at 79. So as I was standing there, I was reminiscing, about back in the day, how me and Took would stroll down the street, with slingshots on, and cars would be honking at us, and girls would be whistling, and it would just be excitement. And I was just sitting there, you know, reminiscing on this. And then I looked down the street and I saw this group of brothers walking toward me. And I said, oh, okay. So, you know, you don't see that anymore in South Central. You don't see brothers mobbing no more. That's how it was back when I was, you know, in motion. You would see us mobbing 17 deep, 20 deep, you know, marching your gang off into another neighborhood. So as I seen this group of brothers marching toward me, it gave me a good feeling. And and as they got closer, I said, "Oh man, it was the rolling 60s. They were coming down in the ETG hood to say goodbye to Monster." And I said, "Man, how down is that, man?" And it was Pretty Boy. And I was like, "Wow." So they saw me, they all congregated around me and we talked, and you know, we ended up going inside of the church and everything. And then we were out in the parking lot. So and that's how it used to be, you know. It was like, you know, we were one gang back in the day. So it was good to see some OGs
Name the
from the
people
Rolling
in this
50s.
picture.
Oh man, you got Big Donald Archie over there with his arms crossed. Uh you got Warlock there with the broke down brim hat. You got Tookie squatting down, look like he got on like the I want to say purple shirt with the suspenders. And then the brother in the leather coat, it either looks like Buddha or little James Compton. And so that's those are the homies right there, man. Those are
All
the
right.
homies, man. That's back in the day too. That's back that's back Factor Brooklyn and when Bob Simmons and all of that stuff was forming.
Yep.
Yeah, that's back then. Yeah. That's how it was, man. We
Hey,
wear those waistline leather jackets.
so look, good looking out, Caleb. Um, Cutes.
Yeah.
Somebody want to know what was Tookie and Bulldog's relationship like?
Well, it was like this. So you had a big sugar bear, Henry Wiles. His uncle lived two houses down. But what was crazy is that Pookie's uncle lived in the same house 2 months before. So Pookie's uncle came out here from Louisiana. So he moved two houses away from me. So then when he moved out of that house, well, we had put this big ass robbery and we got a bunch of Remy Martin. So we had all of this Remy Martin. We had nothing but big ass boxes of Remy Martin, and it covered the whole living room of Pookie's uncle's house. So, so when he moved out of that house, then Sugar Bear's uncle moved in. So when Sugar Bear's uncle moved in, that's when Bulldog came over there, and we went around the corner over Tookie's house. So uh, the homeboy that would always be with him would be our homeboy from 7-4, Tony Stacy. So Tony Stacy, we would go over there and visit Took. Took was convalescent at the time. So the relationship was, man, he would just smile when he would see Tookie and he would call him Big Took. He'd say, "What's up, Big Took?" And then Took, they had deep admiration for each other. Because here you got two G's at the same status. These dudes are the kind of dudes that would rush the cannon. You know, they would just block out all fear and rush the cannon. So these are the kind of individuals that you're dealing with. So when you get these two type of courageous guys together, two leaders, you know, together, then you just sit back and enjoy how they interact with each other. You
So
know, and
let,
I would just
so let
chill
me
with them.
ask you a question if you know the answer or not. Why was Bulldog getting into it with the hundreds early on, like 71, before he caught his case?
Before he caught his case,
Or after, somewhere around 70, 71. Wasn't he one of the first ones to go to jail for murder?
no, what had happened is that okay, I know that. Well, Sugar Bear gave me the rundown on the incident. What happened is that Gary Lane from the Magnificent Seven and some of the Capones, they were all up at the cafe, and the East Side came up to Horseman, and it was before everything had joined up, and they didn't know was these guys coming up here to take leather coats were they coming up here to be cool with us, or were they coming up here to punk us? So they all start fighting and jump Sugar Bear, and they start fighting out front and stuff. So that was the incident that they talking about. That was just like that's just like when Raymond Potts checked into John Muir. So I used to take my gang up to John Muir and fight the Brims. So when Raymond Potts got out of camp and he checked into John Muir, he started a gang. His gang was a mixture of Van Ness boys, Brims, and local thugs in the community. So his sister started going to Horseman. So he came up to Horseman with about 19 dudes that he marched across Budlong, marched across Normandy, marched across Western, boom, St. Andrews, over the gate. Now he's at my school. And everybody's like, hey man, the John Muir gang is here. So I throw the whistle, all the Horseman Crips come together, we mob over to the side, we run into them, we about to get into it with them, and then we see it's Raymond Potts, but we also see other gang members with him. And so we said, hey man, what's up, man? And he says, oh no, man, we the John Muir gang like that, man. Everybody here is cool. I said, well, that's Tony Morgan. He's a Van Ness boy. And he said, yeah, but we all go to the same school, so we all cool. And I said, all right, as long as y'all ain't gonna try to jump none of us walking home and no shady shit, everything is cool, like that. So we joined up. For a little bit of time, Horseman and John Muir was joined up. And that was weird. And because I heard this dude on this mic thing talk about the Brims. He don't even know the dynamic of the Brims and the Crips. He don't know that the Brims were in our neighborhood already before we got to our neighborhood with a gang. They had already established gang activity and gang lifestyle that we could see. The Slawsons had already established gang lifestyle that we could see before we were a gang. The Rebel Rousers had already established gang lifestyle. The Van Ness boys had already established gang lifestyle that we could see. The businessmen, the gladiators, the Slawsons, all of these gangs were, everything I just mentioned was pre-Crip, so it's like the influence came from a lot of different people, but it was a black influence.
Right.
What was amazing is how this dude Touche came on here the other day and he talked about the roots of the word chain gang. And I never knew that. But I'm not going to dispute what he said. Ain't nobody else came on here and disputed it. I don't live in Inglewood. He lived in Inglewood. So if he said it, then someone else from over there got to say it wasn't true. As far as I'm concerned, whatever he's saying must be true.
Well, my theory on that is you guys were younger, and a lot of you guys had moved to the neighborhood during or after white flight.
Yeah.
So a lot of the guys that came after you and your brothers to the area, Inglewood or South LA, they weren't privy to running across white gang members. That's why they don't know about them and talk about them. But
Yeah.
even if somebody came on here and disputed it, I would like to debate them because it's in newspaper articles, so it's
Oh
already
yeah.
documented.
Oh, I'm not disputing him. Fact of the matter, I was like amazed by his history because he just complimented some things that I'd already said. I told you that when the Magnificent Seven had their conflict with my buddy Donald Archie, that was in 1970. I know my years, and I'm never going to forget. So anyone who want to say 71, that's your reality, but that's not my reality. And so Touche, hey man, thanks for your history. I enjoyed listening to what you were talking about. James Miller was a dear friend of mine too. I introduced him to his wife, Lisa.
Cuse, have you heard of Michael Scruggs, the Inglewood Crip?
Michael Scruggs?
Yeah.
Damn. The only Inglewood Crip that I remember, that a lot of people don't talk about was Pop Squally. Squally.
Right.
Not Squally Davis.
Yeah,
Not that
different.
homeboy.
Yeah.
But the other Squally.
Yeah. Cutes. I know the family doesn't too much want people to speak on Salty, but is there anything you could speak on your experience with Salty?
Yeah, so as we were getting the long table ready, for Salty, we had went and got Light Bulb because he had just got out, and so Light Bulb had came up there, and Sugar Bear he since he was had a great influence in the Cute 102 neighborhood. He was close to these Comptons, real close. I was close to Comptons too through my relationships through LP, Los Padrinos. But Salty, we were getting ready for Salty to come home. So everybody was getting out, around the same time, just like when Bulldog and them all got out around the same time. So we were getting ready for Salty. We were going to build him a plat. He was going to have his own, every gang leader had their own plat. So we were getting ready to get Salty his plat so he could represent his neighborhood at the long table, But that unfortunate circumstances, turn us away from that. But I went over his house that night. He stayed across the street from elementary school. So we went in the back, at elementary school and talked about things and everything. But yeah, Sugar Bear took it the hardest out of all of us because he really had a personal relationship with him. You know, these two brothers did time in the trenches, camp, YA, and whatnot, and on the streets. So, maybe one day Sugar Bear will come on, and tell us all about, the great Salty, the cool swagger dude. Well, I know one thing we all had in common. We said when we get out, we were going to get Rivieras. So I got a Riviera. Big Little Honcho got a Riviera. We all were getting these Rivieras. And maybe we would have started another Riviera car club like we did in Pomona. So because Mouse had started that being in Factor Brooklyn. So he had started a branch of that down there, which was pretty cool. So we were all getting out of those Chevys, jumping in them Rivies, man. But he was a good brother. He was cool. He was in a relationship. He was about to start doing straight grown man shit. He had a nice house, nice family, had moms, big old light in the backyard, beautiful, nice house, good street. I mean, the street had elementary school on it. There ain't nobody gonna tolerate a bunch of bullshit, by the kids and stuff.
When did you first hear of IVC?
I what is that abbreviation for?
Imperial Village Crips.
Imperial Village. I'm not sure.
All right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Some of these questions coming from the comment section, but
Oh no, if I could answer something honestly, then I will. But if I'm not sure, I'll say I'm not sure because I don't like to taint history. Because someone else could come and give us, a straight pinpoint on stuff like I can when it's something that I really know.
all right. I don't know. Somebody's asking me, was it Imperial or Inglewood? From my knowledge, it was Imperial first and then Inglewood, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you, bro. Um, I know you want to be specific, and I know you want answers about that particular area. Me and Cutes aren't the ones that have that information, but I do know somebody that may be willing to give up some IVC history, or
Yeah,
at
you
least
gotta realize, you gotta realize we came up in the area between Gage and I wanna say at this time, you could say between Gage and Florence, in between Florence and Van Ness, or Florence and Half, or Florence and Crenshaw, right? A little square area like that. You could say in the beginning, you could say a little, and then it started expanding, from there. You know, we started expanding, but I'm familiar with all the little surrounding areas, but maybe I was, in camp when you guys start calling stuff like IVC, and different
well, he said, 1972, he founded Inglewood Village Crips.
Oh, okay, cool. So, so is it like a apartment complex or what? Because if it's a village, it reminds me of like, was there a bunch of units like inside of a, a cluster? Well,
You know, I'm not gonna get into this politic thing, but
yeah.
I am gonna say this: a lot, and I mean a lot of black people have bad things to say about Maxine Waters. But I'm gonna tell you two things real quick. Number one, it's the reason why all those white politicians hate her. And number two, she did a lot for brothers that came home from prison. She got brothers not only jobs but careers. You
I
know,
don't have I don't have nothing. I'm gonna tell you how courageous she is. This is how courageous she is. She came to Monster's wake.
well, not just that. Let me cut you off. She's came to a lot of events that I've been at in LA. I'm talking
Hmm.
about where thugs is at, where gang members is at, where
Exactly.
ex-cons are at. I
Yep.
mean, that to me, that's commendable.
Yep. She
You feel me?
reminds me. She reminds me of Miss Washington, the lady who husband on the Signal newspaper. Uh, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the first black newspaper in California that sold more copies than any other black newspaper. So the Signal was owned. She was the heir. So her name was Miss Washington, and she would come to the long table and be in the room with all of us gangsters, and she would be in there encouraging us to do the right thing. And she was a sweet lady. And then she gave us a banquet at the Hilton, and I had the opportunity to sit right next to her at the banquet table.
you know, like I said, I don't want to get off into politics, Monique Hill, but here go the thing. This is what I tell everybody. This is just based on life, period. One person's experience with an individual is not somebody else's experience with that same individual. A person could be a buster on the street and you catch him in jail and he's stabbing shit. And vice versa. You could catch a dude in that penitentiary that act like he hard as hell. He come home on the street, he's scared of a gun. Or a
Yeah,
killer on the street go to jail, he's scared of a knife.
yeah.
I mean, so we all have our own experiences, and my experience with Maxine Waters is firsthand. When I gave the protest, when mailman Kevin Wicks was killed in Inglewood, Maxine Waters showed up. When my homeboy Nutty Boy got out of prison and through a press conference, Maxine Waters showed up. When my homeboy Nutty Boy asked the government for money for millions of dollars, Maxine Waters showed up and made the white politicians promise to allocate that money to black gang prevention and intervention in South Los Angeles. So he got money off of that. I watched him. I seen him. When my homeboy Teaspoon came home from prison, she gave Teaspoon a job doing fiber optics, fixing computers.
Wow,
He still fixes computers. He's a professional at fixing computers. You know what I
wow.
mean? So I'm just saying it's okay if you don't like her. It's okay that a lot, like I said, a lot, not just you, a lot of black people get at me talking bad about her. Her name always come up. But I can't do that, and I can't agree with that. And I got a lot of homeboys, and even non people that's not my homeboys, people that's from rival gangs, have gotten jobs from her and fed their family from her, and was able to go to work instead of sell drugs. So me personally, I have nothing bad to say about it. Even if she never done nothing in her district, she's helped a lot of black people that will go to her district to work.
I know I don't have nothing but admiration and praise for her too, and I have not received anything from her. I have never met her, but I just, I know of her works, so I respect her. I mean, we don't have too many strong black women that we can respect. So let's start with her. Let's respect her. She's a strong black woman. She went against Trump. She reminds me of a black Nancy, and Nancy's a strong woman too. I respect her, you know. So I respect. There's women in politics that I respect. There's women outside of politics that I respect. You got to start respecting women. You gotta look at these women as being strong women. Women have been oppressed a long time. What about this backwards, archaic ass law that Texas just passed, trying to send women back to the closet to smoke a cigarette, taking away their abortion right? It's their body. They're the one who gets pregnant. They're the one who has to give birth. It's their choice. How's a man going to tell them what to do with their body? Can't tell. And then you want to jump on the God cloth with this thing here, but yet you uphold executions inside of these prisons. Texas has executed more people than any other state in the United States in the history of the United States. Your body's yours. You need to get out and march. You need to protest. You need to boycott. You need to quit going to work. You need to slow some shit up. That's what you need to do.
What they need to? No, I'm not even going to do that. I was going to make a joke, but it's not the
Okay.
appropriate time right now.
All right. All right. But I'm mad because I don't like them taking away the women's rights. It's their body. They're the ones who go through what they go through. We don't know what those women are going through. How about
So,
I'm a man and I'm going to say, oh, I'm just going to strike a pin. Now you can't have an abortion because I'm just angelical son of a bitch who says in the Bible that our life is this and life is that. Come on, man. Who practice scripture to the letter? None of you people do, but yet you want to hold these women to a letter? This body is theirs. They have the choice to do with their body what they want to do with their body, man. At the end, they will answer on Judgment Day, just like you're going to answer on Judgment Day. But right now, give them their rights. Don't you be judge, the jury, and have a say so in their life. You're trying to turn this shit back into the way that women are treated in third world countries. You're trying to subject these women to some servitude. Fuck you.
yeah, part of the reason for a lot of the homeless population in LA is because the weather in LA is a lot nicer than other states. They don't want to be homeless where there's hurricanes. They don't want to be homeless where it just rains all year long. Um,
Yeah.
in LA, the weather's so good you can sleep on the street during summer months,
But
and
Kevin, you right about why we got a lot of homeless, but the real factor is that there was a lot of chemists out there making hellish drugs that burnt these
absolutely.
poor people's brain cells, and
Well,
these people can't function.
I was just saying in part,
Oh, okay.
but
All right.
definitely the drugs ruined a lot of people and made people homeless. And then even those guys with mental health problems, a lot of them are homeless because there's no help for them. There's nowhere for them to go when their parents die or their
Yeah.
caretaker dies.
Yeah, these people should be nurtured and cared about. You shouldn't just want to just lock them up, kill them, sterilize them. It's our problem. Oh, Gavin Newsom should be ashamed. Man, come on, man. No governor in the history of California and none of the states have found the answer to this problem. But I got the answer. The answer is recovery. You get them in recovery, you get them away from drugs. You quit selling them alcohol. You sell these little bitty bottles of alcohol, you capitalist pigs. They can only afford these little, they used to only have these little bottles on airplanes. But now you sell them in the store to cater to the homeless people. They don't need no alcohol. A homeless person shouldn't be able to buy alcohol. Should go into no alcohol to the homeless. Anybody caught selling alcohol to the homeless should have their liquor license taken away. That should be the first step.
Yeah, everybody's chiming in on the mental health problems, and that's what I'm saying. A lot of homeless people have mental health problems, and from
Yeah.
what I
We have
know,
people in our own family that suffer from mental health problems. And you can only help people so much. Some people don't want to be saved. But
right,
you have a mental health problem, that's a hell of a dynamic. Some of us can give 24 hours a day of our time to that, to save someone.
right. Well, Cutes, I'm gonna call it a day, man. I'm gonna go drink me some ice cold water and watch the rest of sports for the day, man.
Well, man, I enjoyed coming on, man. I mean, I hadn't been on in a long time. And I think we covered some good issues today. I enjoyed the company that we had in our fans and in our audience. I want to thank everybody for sending me a hand up. That was real cool. I'm here at work now, ready to start my shift. So I'm being strong. So you guys be strong too. Stay away from drugs if you can. Stay away from gang violence if you can. If all else fails, let's settle for a head up fight. And everybody just chill and be cool.
Right. All right, brother. I'm gonna holler at you, man. Maybe you come on tomorrow or Monday. Just let me
For sure.
know. Let me
For
know.
sure.
I got an hour for you whenever you want to come back.
Hey, well, thanks a lot, man. I enjoy your company, man.
All right, for sure. Take it easy, bro.
All right, be cool.
All right. All right, Mac is a maniac. Shout out to those that looked out for cutes. Shout out to my sister Kim. Um, I'm gone. Maybe I'll come back tonight, 9, 10 o'clock tonight. Thanks for the cash apps and super chats. Peace. Monique, take it easy on our sisters now. Go easy on the black sisters, Monique. Even if you don't like them, you don't have to put them on blast. Much love, Monique. Peace.